Hello, I welcome you to our monthly broadcast at Anselmo Academy, and thank you very much for tuning in support of this initiative. Today we present Emma Tahmiziàn, acclaimed pianist originally from Bulgaria, who had made New York City her second home. She is prize winner at some of the most notable competitions like Robert Schumann, Van Cliburn, Leeds, and Tchaikovsky, among others. Emma, please say hello. She's at my home today.
Hello. First of all, it's so wonderful to be here at home with
Yes.
you. And thank you for inviting me, for having me here. It is a great joy to be here and to talk about things that, living life, you don't think about these things, you just do.
That's
And with this conversation and with what you have in mind, it has put me in touch with certain things that I would never have thought of. And thank you for with this conversation to know that this is part of what you do for Anselmo Academy, and it's the whole thing about the continuation um, in music and with musicians and between generations. This is just what makes it all meaningful.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. Yes, all
This
goodness.
might take a little longer than anticipated. Um, Today is part one. We will focus on the dialogue and picture gallery. And then in December, we plan part two, where we'll feature Emma's videos or audios from her, I guess, younger years or what have you have prepared for us. We have a couple of brief announcements from Anselmo Academy. Our fall semester is open for private lessons, and we offer lessons and classes throughout New York, all five boroughs, and New Jersey. Please connect with us at our website, anselmoacademy.org. Thank you so much for this flyer, Josh. Um, and Anselmo Academy is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. We are in our 25th school year, and we specialize in organizing group classes at local schools. This is pretty much 90% of everything that we do. This past academic year, we have served about 2,000 students a week through many partnerships we have with local schools, teaching group classes. And our programs vary from general music, where like a classroom type teaching, to organizing small group classes in piano, violin, guitar, choir, musical theater, recorder, drama, and others. If you know of a school or a program that is in need of a music and arts type of educational program on site, please do reach out at anselmoacademy.org. Please subscribe to our social media platforms and subscribe to our 2E newsletters. So you could find at anselmoacademy.org website homepage on the bottom right. The first newsletter is called Academic Newsletter, and the second one is called On Stage, where we feature, of course, our internal happenings and internal events and classes that we organize, but also we feature events like this one we have today with notable musicians who participate in our broadcast once a month, and we feature their journey and their passion for music and the life story. We hope you enjoy our program today. Can we please have Emma's profile picture on the screen so I go through her bio, please? Great, thank you. Emma's international career was launched when, at 19, the youngest contestant at the time, she won the gold medal at the Robert Schumann International Competition in Germany and subsequently made her Berlin debut. She has toured extensively in recital as a soloist with orchestra and in chamber music, performing in most of Europe's major cities, including Paris, Rome, Berlin, Leipzig, Dresden, Geneva, Vienna, Prague, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Vilnius, and in Canada's Toronto and Montreal, and in the United States. She has appeared in New York's prominent concert venues, including Distinguished Artist Series at the 92nd Street Y, Carnegie's Henkel Hall and Wild Recital Hall, Lincoln Center, Miller Theater, Symphony Space, and the Museum of Modern Art, the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., the Los Angeles County Museum of Arts, and the Ambassador Auditorium in Los Angeles, and Jordan Hall in Boston. She has performed as a soloist with orchestras such as the St. Petersburg Philharmonic, East Berlin Radio Symphony, Monster Symphony, Yale Philharmonia, Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony, Prague Chamber Orchestra, as well as leading orchestras in her native Bulgaria. Emma has garnered international prizes from some of the world's most coveted international competitions, such as Van Cliburn, Tchaikovsky, and Leeds, as well as J. Bach's Metna and Montreal international competitions. Going through the international competition scene during the Cold War, presenting at a time a country, which is Bulgaria, from the other side of the Iron Curtain, she has often been the first contestant to have brought a prize from most of these competitions. The Van Cliburn, where she was the first woman to have received a prize after a 16-year gap prior to her participation, was a pivotal point in her life, and the United States became her second home country. Her recital programs span music of over 5 centuries, from William Byrd and Girolamo to Emma Tahmiziàn, George Crumb, Ligeti, John Carigliano, William Bolcom, and others, and works by contemporary composers, including Sebastian Currier and Ronnie Didia, have been written for or dedicated to her. She has been bringing together music of past years and contemporary pieces, taking part in groundbreaking performances, premiering new works for solo piano, concerto with orchestra, and in chamber music. As a founding member of Mosaic in the 17 years of the Unique Quartet Association, she has recorded and performed in video and multimedia productions, and recorded for labels like Koch International, New World Records, and been presented in Cannes with a Beethoven recording. Her performances have been hailed by critics as electrifying, stunning, captivating, moving, ever inspiring, and absolute fascinating, intense performance. Fanfare magazine review on her recording of Sebastian Currier, Theo's sketchbook reads, Emma Tahmiziàn gives the sort of stunning performance composers dream of. She's a graduate of the Juilliard School and the Bulgarian National Music Conservatory. Emma began her piano studies at age 3 and made her first public appearance at 5. Her formative years encompasses broad spectrum of schooling from the Bulgarian Pinka Petkova, a Leipzig Conservatory disciple, to Julia Konstantin Ganev, pupils of the legendary Heinrich Neuhaus, to the inspiring Felix Gallmer at the Juilliard in New York City, to the great French pianist and pedagogue Yvonne Laherbe, herself student of Ravel in France. Emma has served as faculty member at the Bowdoin International Music Festival for nearly 3 decades, an artist in residence at the University of Virginia, a visiting professor at the Lawrence University's Music Conservatory, a lecturer at the College of the Holy Cross, and an assistant professor at the Bulgarian State Music Conservatory. She has given master classes and workshops for solo piano, chamber music, and on both continents, as well as presentations with the composition students at the Juilliard School, BIMF, and Middlebury College. She has served as an adjudicator in international competitions in Germany, Spain, and the United States, and has taken part in panel discussions, most recently at the 2024 Alan Algerich Foundation Third International Conference. Great. Now we are moving on to the dialogue. And so let's begin. I need a long drink.
Yes. Um,
Well, wait. So my first question.
yes, I thought,
Yeah.
let's begin.
Yeah. So my first question, let's start from the beginning. Tell us about maybe anything you want, obviously, but about your upbringing, your family, your first teachers, your passion for becoming a professional pianist, and how did it all come together?
My very first memory is very first. I was a little over 2 years old. Was this black, shiny, a long, high, narrow something. It was shiny, and I walked. It was a long distance, from one room to the other. So I got to it, and I had to sort of make a whole trip, how to look at what it was. So all sorts of things. They're black, white, in different shape, and some of them were kind of cracked. They were cracked because they were ivory keys at the time. In the olden days, the keys of the pianos were made of ivory.
What kind of piano was it?
I don't know, but it was a street piano.
Mhm.
It was a piano that had been brought to the home of my parents and my uncle, because my uncle had seen it on the street, uh, and he had decided his sons will take piano as part of their upbringing, cultural education. And my older sister had started taking lessons. Um, and then when my uncle's family moved away, this piano was left with us. And this is the first memory. Um, After that, I was constantly reproducing things that I was hearing from the radio on piano. Um, I wouldn't know how I knew the notes. I knew them. I don't know how that happened. I might have asked my sister. I don't have a recollection. But I was reproducing everything from the symphonic music. I grew up in a house adjacent to the then all three institutions in one place: the theater, the opera, and the symphony orchestra. And my backyard was their courtyard. And my first friend was a fantastic singer, Ada Finzi. And she would, aside of the fact that she was giving me fairy tales by Andersen and Charles Perrault, she was also taking me to rehearsals of the opera. And I remember one time there was the dress rehearsal of an opera, and I love, to this day, I love pitch dark balls. And only the light is only on stage. I love that. Um, so the rehearsal was going not well. And at one point, the conductor put down his baton and turned to the singer, who's not my friend, so a second role singer. She was a little off. And so he finally said, what are you doing? And there was dead silence. Uh, and I felt that, oh dear, I want to help. I want to say, well, no one knows what it is. So I'm saying, well, she's singing B flat instead of B natural. And that dead silence went into a burst of such laughter, and the conductor going like, no. I did help the situation, not in the way in which I had thought I would, but by they all were laughing. And after that, things really went very smoothly. Um, I was warming up alongside with the singers. They would sing their scales, and I would sing them after them. It was like that. My entire childhood was in the theater and the symphony orchestra and the opera. Going to two schools, but before going to two schools, I made when I became 3 years old, I made a few pieces, so to speak. And at that point, an uncle of mine said to my parents, we really have to do something about this child." And he took me to the then music director of the music school director, composer Sandy Amandia. And I was crying all the way. But when he saw me, he said something to me in Armenian, and it turned out he had when he was growing up, he had been in an Armenian neighborhood. So he said something in reference to my eyes, and I responded to him. And at that point, he was my friend. We were talking. So a very extensive, long time walking me through a lot of things. My absolute pitch was shown. I played my pieces. I sang, but he started asking me to sing things along with him, and the samples were getting longer and longer. He wanted to check that, and he wanted to check the rhythm, and in the end, he said, "Oh, then we played together." He went to the bottom part of the piano and he said, "And you are going to make your own songs now as we go along." And after that, he turned to my uncle and mother and said, "This child it's a very rare thing. It has to be channeled. The best person for children is Penka Petkova, and she lives right around the corner." So we went to Penka Petkova's house, and she opened the door with two pairs of glasses and a very basso profundo, smoky voice. She said, "I don't." She looked quite down. "I don't work with very, very young children anymore." But my uncle said, "But just hear her." So after hearing me, she just took a stick and knocked on the ceiling up and called Rada, her niece, who at the time was in the music high school. And she's a pianist, a very, very talented, very great musician. And so she came downstairs, the Rada in question. And from then on, they became in my mind, the big fairy and the little fairy. I'm eternally grateful to Penka Petkova for having not made a show out of me when I was growing up. Whatever was happening was because it was inevitable. As in, I was in my own speed of things. So what was done was never a push. Uh, she never missed a step. Never. Um, At 5 years, I made my first performance, and for that, I participated in a public performance, I should say, because I was 12 when I did my first full recital. Um, and what did I play on that first performance? Schumann. Penka Petkova is the one who introduced me first to Schumann. And we worked extensively, well, many, many composers, but a lot of his. Several pieces of his album for the young, and several pieces of children's suite by the Bulgarian composer Ascendia Mandia, and also by another Bulgarian composer, Parashkev Hadjiev. Now, what I remember about Parashkev Hadjiev's piece was that, and this is what I want to say about my teacher, the lengths to which she went. Uh, it was called the cave. Well, I was playing everything. I was playing the dynamics. I was playing the notes. Everything was right, but the piece was not there, and I could not understand the piece. She kept on explaining to me what cave means, but yeah, I could understand. And this is where his Asen Diamandou's words that she was best with children really is shown, because she just took me by hand and we went to the city park where there is this thing, to this day actually is there, a dusty rose color marble, something that looks like a cave, and there's a bear in front of it, also by the same marble. We went back to her house, and there was the cave. I was able to, I knew what cave was, and I think it's so important for us to know what we are playing. It's it's uh, normally it's in the title of the work and the tempo markings of the work, of the movements. Um, and she showed me that um, connection with the piece. Um, Another thing I'm very grateful to her for is um, the hygiene of work ethics. They were not told to, in words, not at all, but they crystallized due process, the work, and the incredible devotion. These very serious musicians came out of her hands. I mean, there was this jazz pianist, Milch Olivier, who was from Plovdiv and had been her student. I've never met him, but he had uh, lived in Los Angeles for many, many years with the jazz, was a very good jazz pianist. Rada Petkova that I mentioned, she is to this day is a very active um, presence in the music life in Europe. Um, when she would go to, summer seminars with Geza Anda several times, or Guido de Agosti, she would come back and we would have these times together with my teacher, or her aunt and herself and I, and she would share her experience and so many things with these great artists. Um, exactly when in my very early teens. Penka Petkova is the one with whom I won a competition when I was 6. I did the debut at 12, played the Papillon, Opus 2 of Schumann, of the Fountains of Villa d'Estevez, Bach, French Suite, G major, Beethoven Opus 10, number 3 Sonata in D major. Now, for the Bach suite,
Wonderful. Sweet. I love that one.
yes, such liveliness, and it's such a um the jig itself. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
and I actually cannot choose a movement. Um, but what she had in her work was she called it, "I want to check my watch," and she would take me to Sofia. And I would play either for Professor Tamara Yankova, who was at the time the professor in the leading professor in the conservatory until until she retired. Uh, but when I was 11 and chosen to play 26 pieces of Bulgarian composers in Moscow in the uh, duration of 1 week, uh, she took me to them, each one of them, and I played for them. It was a marvelous experience for me. It was just so I don't know, exciting. And when I played for Pancho Vladimирov, he mentioned the name Ziggy, and Ziggy was Alexis Weisenberg.
Mm.
Ziggy had been his Pancho Vladimirov's student, piano student, until they had left Bulgaria. In I don't remember which year it had been that, but somewhere around the war, Second World War, at age of 13. And then the following year,
I have a question.
yes.
Were your parents musicians or just your uncle?
No, they were no, my uncle was actually a merchant
Mm.
with a lot of experience in doing a lot of things in Monaco, in Istanbul. This is way before I was born. He was in his 70s when I was, 2 and 3. But he had this, he was a great, a kinetic person, if I can say, dynamic person, and a great muse, so to speak, great understanding of something.
I wanted to ask
My
because
parents are not musicians. They're both very musical. My sister was in the piano in the music school. She was 10 years older, and she ended up actually playing for the what was called the Golden Girls of Bulgaria. Those are the art gymnastics girls, and she went to the Olympics with them, to Korea and to China, and she was fascinated with the way they were training, and she was that was a very fulfilling experience for her. I have relatives that are musicians, but not the previous generation. My cousins, I have cousins from my mother's side. One of them, pianist, the other one was a cellist that was a student of Leonard Rose at Juilliard. Um, Later on, they did not continue with music, but my cousin in Germany, in Emilia, she was the pianist to the Berlin Komische Opera's ballet until she retired, all her whatever 35 or 40 years.
let's continue. Yes. Let's continue
Yeah.
with your story. Yes.
Oh,
I wanted to clarify
yeah.
about your immediate family.
That's yes, my cousins, they are older than me. I'm a different generation, but they are not the ones. But my father, when I would practice, he would say, "Oh, that was Beethoven, right?" Or he would be whistling or singing the choruses of Verdi opera, um, in great tune, great voice. My mother actually had played the accordion.
My mother played accordion.
Yes,
That was a thing, I guess. Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah.
My mother was a French college disciple, and she knew English was the ninth language for her. Yeah, amazing years. And Larousse and all the dictionaries were stuck next to her till the end of her life. It was always that. A thirst for knowledge. And that was another thing about my first teacher, Penka Petkova, thirst for knowledge. Never stopped with it. I would ask her questions and she would answer. And then she would go, let me see in my German books, because she was from Leipzig Conservatory. She had gotten her education there. And she had come back with all these scores, with all these books in German, and very bad eyesight, 2 pairs of glasses, magnifying glass, and she would be translating because I had a question. And it was just like that. It was percolating, and she was a colorful person. And so,
I'm sorry. At home, did you speak Bulgarian or
both,
Armenian?
both. I spoke them simultaneously, Armenian and Bulgarian. Yes. And you know how I learned the alphabet? Your name.
What do you mean?
Your name.
What do you mean?
Well, um, I was I was not quite 4. And, curious. There are all these things that are made out of paper. And touching one is kind of thick, another is thin, and then I got the thin thing, and I opened it, and there were all sorts of signs. And I went to my mother, asked her, "What's this? What's that?" It turned out this was, a poem. It titled Viara, which in Bulgarian means believe, but the noun believe, not the verb. And that's how I learned the alphabet. I was asking each sign what it was, and I learned the combinations. That was it. Right. At 6, I was the winner of a national competition of all disciplines, with all the music schools in the country. At 11, I was in Moscow with that. That was my first trip. And when my mother and I arrived, along with several of the composers, in the hotel, in the lobby, I see Valentina Tereshkova. Valentina Tereshkova is the first woman astronaut.
You wouldn't believe it. It's in my notes. We'll ask you about it. We did not discuss this. Yeah.
Well, here comes the answer.
Yeah.
Uh, Unquestioned answer.
Deja vu.
Deja
Yeah.
vu. So I told my mother, she was with me and I'm a kid, Mom, Valentina Tereshkova. She says, "What do you mean,
She
Valentina
was a
Tereshkova?"
big famous figure in
Yes.
Soviet Union, yeah.
Well, actually, internationally, the first woman out there in
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Um, so next day, the newspaper, my mother didn't believe me quite. Next day, there was the newspaper, and for the International Day of Space and the astronauts, there was this special dinner at Hotel Yunus, which means youth. And first woman astronaut, Valentina Tereshkova was present. Yeah, I've seen also Yuri Gagarin. Also, he had to come to my birth city. I want to say a couple of words about nothing to do with me. Plovdiv, the place where I was born. Uh, it's in the Valley of Thracia. Thracia is the home. Thracian was the musician of musicians, Orpheus. Of course, that's mythological figure, but he was human in the myth. And he's Thracian. The first name of Plovdiv is Malpia, Thracian. Marcus Aurelius was there. Philip of the Great was there and liked it so much that renamed it Philippopolis. This is the type of city on around 7 hills that I think you carry some 9 layers of civilization without even knowing that. Why is Orpheus myth so important? I mean, so many composers have written on that subject. Because one part of the myth is about this music melting the non-existing parts of the mythological creatures and monsters, and went into actually everything was done through the magicness of his playing, of his music, of his lyre. And you know what? I experienced that several times. I have experienced it. One very uh, firm way I experienced that was in Italy. My very first tour there it was to be for 10 days only. And I had the visa exactly for 10 days. And I had, I think it was 4 or 5 concerts. But the 8th day, the organization asked me to do 4 more concerts. Now, for that, I needed to, the visa needed to be changed to 5 additional days. So we went to the police and the constant, there was a lot to be done. And between my French and Italian terminology, music terminology, was able to communicate with him. But I have to say what I experienced. You say the word la musicista, and iron gates opened. That's how it was. La musicista in Italy was a sacred, something really sacred. Just everything will be, everything is possible. Um, you know, you mentioned about December, and for me to go I would like to speak about some of the competitions in December.
Sure.
I will leave them
Yeah,
now,
that's fine, yeah.
because they're
I do have a question about it
Yes.
eventually, but
Yes.
I think I'll ask it today though,
Yes.
because it has nothing to do with specific competition.
Yes.
It's just tell me what you want to say now.
Well, I wanted to talk about my next teachers, and that's what.
Yes, go ahead.
And before them, I had two international competitions. Had gone with Penka Petkova at
Mhm.
16 and 17, and then my first year with the Ganevs was Schumann. And I remember Julia Garner was saying, because it was, you know how it is, the first year is always, it takes time to understand who says what and how they express themselves. And there's always that transition. And I left home from one city to another. Even with my friends, still a lot of adjustments and getting ready for a serious, international competition. So on the way to the airport, Julia Ganiver was coming. She liked going to competitions the with her students I was, Konstantin Ganev's student, but de facto we were working always with both of them. And the assistant to him, his studio, Marina Kapatsinska, who herself was a disciple of Dmitry Bashkirov. And so we are on the way to the airport, and Julia suddenly turns to me, "So, Emma, do you want to go?" With that intonation, by the way.
How old were you?
Uh, mm, 19.
Mhm.
Yeah, 19. Yes. Uh, my answer was, what was I doing all these months? And I was quite puzzled with the question. And Konstantin Ganek, who was driving us, he chuckled and said, "Whoa, that's a great answer." And then 3 weeks later, we came back with the, first prize from it.
What were you playing? Do you remember?
Oh, goodness, 3 rounds.
Mhm.
I remember that the first round had Traumasviren as a mandatory piece. I think I played, yes, Opus 31, number 3, Beethoven, first round. I also played Carnival, Schumann, Opus 9 in the first round. How do I remember that? I remember because nothing that was in my head was actually coming out, I thought. And I was both playing and getting distraught over the fact that, oh my goodness, it doesn't sound the way I wanted. And then the end of the round came, and the applaudissements started. I go backstage, and there's this stomping on the floor, very loud stomping. And, I got scared, and the stage manager said, go back. They want to like you. That's why they're stomping. Um, and it went on like that. And then we got into the bus. I was very last, and my teachers came to me and said a word, oh, little soul. So she liked it, and I said, well, it must have been good. Rudolf Kerr was on the jury, and I had seen Rudolf Kerr several years before that when he came to Plovdiv to play Brahms' first concerto, and I remember his neck was a little bit like that. It turned out he had been for many years in Siberia, and he had not had any piano. So because he had been cutting trees, and that's all he'd been doing. He had cut a piano. Yes, he had been practicing on a non-stringed piano that he had designed, so he could do something in those years. Yes,
Wow.
yes, and I was very. It meant a lot to me when I saw him to be one of the jury members. And it turned out that that particular carnival, that performance that I thought it was, oh my goodness, actually had made a very strong impression. But I think that's what happens when you're very young. There is a discrepancy which gets cultivated into getting more realistic as to what exactly, what is in you, what you're thinking, and what's really going out. That is something that gets cultivated. Yes.
Can I ask my question? Um, it's a personal question. I hope that's okay. How tall are you?
Yeah, I think 5 and 2.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. So, um, what I wanted to say was, so here you are, like you say, trailblazing through the competitions, and you are this, fragile, tiny, physically looking fragile, tiny woman, um, in the men's world, which was mostly men's world back then. How did it feel? Were you intimidated?
Never. I loved it. I've always loved being with the boys. I loved having conversation with, you know, um, we would have all sorts of debates. Um, by the way, I never went to compete. I don't have a competition in me. I went to hear and to be heard because that was the only way in those days for me to hear, to go out, to go abroad and to hear what's happening. There was no information. The borders were closed always, maybe not officially, but yes, there were. Um, Music has been always the my traveler, my um, plane, my car, whatever you want to say it. How I don't know how to say it, but I really wanted to know what's happening in the world. I mean, when you listen to Glenn Gould's playing an LP, thanks to the fact that your teacher, in my case, is the Penka Petkova, my first teacher, she was in Switzerland visiting her sister, and she came back with a pack of LPs of then Glenn Gould. We're talking late 1960s. He was Glenn Gould, but he was still not the the very big boom. Mm, although he always was a big boom. But I remember the first thing I heard was the number 9, 3-part invention, Bach. So when you hear that because someone had gone, abroad and has brought this, or a fellow student later on would go, abroad and come back with the 5 CDs of Radulupu playing 5 Beethoven concerti, and we would all get together. We would have this evening, Radulupu evening. We'd be listening, we would be talking. When you have that kind of reality, and you are part of music, you're growing up. This is your development, and you really feel that the the borders have to be dissolved uh, for your next step. And the next step was competitions here and to be heard. Now, I also used to wear heels, so that helped a little bit. But another thing about the competitions was that I loved listening. As I said, I went to hear. I loved listening, and I was always so joyous when someone would play beautifully. And a little distress. It was distressing for me if I heard someone not doing well. That would be distressing. Uh, I didn't have this other thing. I mean, my generation of people were Ivo Pogorelic, Christopher O'Reilly, Vladimir Ovchinnikov. Um, those are three names that come to mind right now. And I know I'm not saying other names, but these are the people I really, and later on in life, we here in New York, Christopher O'Reilly and I played together, Bartok and Stravinsky evening. It just it's such the late James Papagallo I met in Moscow. A sweet, sweet, kind people, open people. One fellow pianist to another fellow pianist, and the competition really is a competition. And there are so many things that are not in our control, but we are people.
That's very nice. Next question. So what should the core values be on musicians today? And what's missing?
What's missing? Right away, time. What we are not giving is time. That's otherwise, I don't know. I cannot formulate anything about values. I think values are something that gets crystallized through time. Um and interestingly enough, they don't change with the change of culture or time. I think that's why they're called values. I think that's why. There's something valuable in value, and something is valuable, that means you don't want it squandered or destroyed, and you're willing to stand for it in whatever way you particularly, or I in this moment, I can. And I've always done that. Um, value about, I think our personal values become our values in music as well. My uh, my thing is always this seek. Uh, we can say seek the truth, but then comes the question, what is the truth? You know what truth? And just I think the answers are always in the seeking. Um, that yes,
Yes, good. Excellent. Next question is, what do you hope to be remembered by and why?
well, like first of all, I would like to say that in present tense. So, and I am. I think what from what I know, what I've heard, is that everywhere I've gone, um, I sort of left mark in a way. Um, I have been referred to as a wake-up call, inspiration. I've been told many times by both pianists and non-pianists, you changed my life. I've been quoted certain things. But I can just tell you a few stories, and I think that will say something to do with um, we all have impact in each other's lives. Uh, the degree is different, the nature is different, the nature of the impact is different, definitely. But we do. Um, and I think what I'm about to say is says something about that, and then we can draw a conclusion if it's that. One very a short story is on 72nd Street and Broadway. I'm crossing the street, and that's a very busy artery in New York, and so we are going two directions, of course. And as I'm passing, a young man calls out and says, "Great George Cromwell last week," and I'm turning around. Yes, I was there, and up there was one of two cities in upstate New York, and given recitals there the week before.
When was that?
So that was a few years ago. That was before my big event. So it must have been somewhere, I would say 10 years ago.
Hmm.
10 years ago, yes, 2015. Um, Another would be back. I don't go to back to Bulgaria often. It just happens that way. Back in 2019, I was a jury at the Cayenne competition in Spain, and then went to Bulgaria for to give to do workshops with the students of both Sofia, the National Music Academy students, as well as the students from the music high school, and also in Plovdiv after that. Um, when I was in the National Music Academy in Sofia, of the last evening, a young woman with a great, beautiful bouquet of flowers came to me and introduced herself and said, "I want to thank you because when you were here in 2002 and gave this recital, that was the time when I had decided I was quitting the piano, I was quitting music. But when I heard you and I heard your pictures at an exhibition, I was so inspired. I went back to the piano and now I have my own studio and I play with people. We travel together, we play together." So she's living the life of a musician, and she wanted to thank me with that. Another story is a pianist, a very well-known pianist, who, after hearing me in a recital in recent years, I think 3 years ago, he came up um, to congratulate me and to thank me. He said, "I had decided a couple of years ago that I'm going to take a break from the piano, but hearing your Fantasia Schumann has inspired me, and I'm getting back to it, and I thank you." Um, a, a young woman who was a student, and she wanted to do, to go to certain music institutions, had been discouraged by one person uh, had, who had told her the best thing that you can do is to get married and have children. And she,
Hi.
yes, um, and she was very distraught, and she said, "Should I?" Now I knew her. I knew where she was with the whole thing. And I also knew that she was a musical. She had music in her. B, she had been very unfortunately not well led since she was 6 years old.
Mm.
So I told her, "You can give yourself that answer, but after you've been given the chance to get someplace, and you will know whether that's for you or not, or whether you're for it or not." And I think she had her graduation in one place, and then we started working mostly on Skype because she was far away from me, but she would occasionally come to New York. And after, I think 6 years later, I encouraged her to go back to the university and to have another, a degree. And meanwhile, she had been building a studio, and she always told me, whatever you teach me, I give to my students. And that's wonderful to know. But she teaches in music school. She is very sought after chamber musician. She's a collaborative pianist, very sought after. Again, by the way, she's also married and and has a family. So
So the two can
so the
actually
two,
coexist.
the
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
yes. Another, and here are the
Yeah.
strongest points that I'm making.
Can I, by the way, show this? This is Emma's notes. I don't know if this could be seen. I'm only talking about the style of writing. Yes, I want to say that. No, I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, well, one of the competitions that I did many years after the what I thought was going to be the last one was Promizicus. And Promizicus was an organization, and I'm saying was because after 60 years of existence, last year they closed tent, so to speak, from 1964 to 2024. After the passing of the late Byron Janis, who was on the board of directors, it it was the historic time to uh, say this is the historically the part of Promizicus in the history of music. Why? Because they were providing the winners with great concerts in major halls paired, and here's the humanitarian part, paired, and that was the idea of Father Jean Marley. And in New York, it was the executive director was John Haig, and in there were centers in Paris, also in China, I think in Italy too, at one point. Um, it was paired to for the artists to go after a major concert hall to either shelter or hospital or a mental institution or a correction facility. Um, um, and I chose after a particular program that I had made, uh, and I played it in Carnegie Hall. I asked to play that. I thought it was going to go very well with the Institution for Neurological Disorders that was headed by someone I revered, neurologist Dr. Oliver Sacks, who is now the late Dr. Oliver Sacks. I had read books of his, amazing, both human being and neurologist, and bravery and the devotion and uh, uh, the lengths to which he went um, to make things better and where possible at all, humanly possible, to get people back to a certain degree. Um, and I invited him to the concert, and he wrote to me in longhand, handwritten letter. He said that he was in London because he was having the centers both in New York and London. So when I played, and he was grateful, he expressed gratitude for me for doing that. So when I played for the Institute for Neurological Disorders, where I was told that there are people who cannot move, people who cannot talk. Mm-hmm. For many reasons, but I'm not going to get into them. And they were all ushered by the staff members in wheelchairs. So after I played, by the way, when I first started, it was this dead silence, so some really non-movement at all in the air. And by the time I finished, they started moaning. They wanted to talk. They wanted to touch me when I was walking through their lines because I had to go through the door that way. Um, so I ended up, taking their hands whenever they wanted to. But that was that is music for you. And I don't want to say healing or power. I want to say really music. Uh, uh, music is really music. It comes from muse. Um, and the final story of this segment I want to say about one of the times when I was having a concert in La Salle Courtois in Paris, and there was a big gap of hours in which I asked the organization if they could organize something for me to practice 2 or 3 hours. And so they found this place. They said, "Oh, this is a French heroine from the Second World War. She is a survivor of Ravensburg, and she is gravely ill. She can't come to the concert. She wanted to, but she can't. So she's will open her doors for you. You can practice, and that way she can hear some of the concert." So the secretary took me there, and she herself, as ill as she was, not the nurse, she opened the door. And I remember I was playing one of the pieces I was playing was by a Bulgarian French composer, musicologist, Andrei Borishliev, and it was rather dramatic piece, and I was conscious about playing less volume, and there was Sebastian Curry, and there was Schumann, there was Debussy also. But when we left, the secretary received a phone call from the lady upstairs asking to please organize a ride for me. I'm going to the concert. And I saw this lady. She was truly very ill. So in the half hour between 6:30 and 7, I had a little time to warm up there in the hall. She indeed came and she just sat quietly. Um, I I think this uh, sort of experiences put us in front of a mirror. And the best thing about it is that it is not about us. It's not. No. I happen to carry this thing that is, whatever it is, there's something greater and bigger than me. I'm drawn to it. And when people are drawn to that, because it's bigger and greater than us, it just fills me with the meaningfulness of it all, if you will. Because it comes from the truly best part of the human race. Um, unless we willfully decided to dash at that of us. But here we go. Robert Schumann. Only the arts and artists will save and preserve humanity. Doesn't matter which era. We always face the same circle of challenges. Uh, and in this case is so important that, oh my goodness, there's something that has brought something big to a certain person and has done something grateful in their life, no matter in which part in their lives.
Wonderful. Last question. Who would you invite to dinner to? Anyone from history?
I have 22 names.
No,
I have 22.
not 22. Not today. Maybe one or two.
Clara Schumann.
Why? And she's number one.
And Pope, no,
She's
she was
not.
number 16.
No, but who's number one?
William Shakespeare.
Okay, why?
Because he said one thing When
To be or not to be?
no, when the heart is full, the mouth is mute.
Mhm.
Um,
My daughter and I went to his home museum. Yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah. It was a few years ago, but yeah, to go to learn a lot about
no,
his
that's all. And
upbringing.
the second
Yeah.
is Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Okay.
I had a debate there with myself. The third would be Pope John Paul
No,
II.
let's not go to the third. We are running out of time a little bit, and we still have to do the
Well, because he
gallery.
was an actor
Okay.
in his youth,
Mhm.
and he was the most incredibly humanitarian human being. I was in London when there was the big riot between the Irish and the English and the bloodshed, and he came, not sparing himself. He came to plead and to try to show the life, the value of lives. He never that's oh, actually that's what I want to say. A value, I would say. I have never taken myself seriously. I only take what I do seriously.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think that's what Pope John Paul II was doing. And I think Clara Schumann, well, I have touched her piano because it's in the Schumann house in Zwickau. Um, uh, and there's this first of all, she has been so instrumental in the lives and the creation, the creative levels of several people, not only Robert Schumann and Johannes Brahms, but also Ferenc Liszt, if you will, Chopin. This is the whole. That's where again we go with the art
Another woman in the man's world.
and the mother of what, seven,
Oh my God.
and a performer.
I don't know how she did it.
And at 60,
Yeah.
there's this portrait of hers in the house. She's 60 years old. The luminousness of her face, of
Mhm.
her eyes. Uh, uh, um, this is a person who was prohibited of being with her husband for a year and a half or so, who was prohibited to be married to him to
Mm.
begin with.
Yeah.
There's just so much, and so much. She has traveled. She has contacted. What did she do? How did she do it?
Yeah. That's it.
Uh, um, and I was surprised actually when I thought of her because I normally in my everyday life I wouldn't think of her necessarily. I would think of the composers, and she is a composer. That has been the dance start with her team, but Um, I thought of her because she is so instrumental. And I know that Brahms's piano quintet is piano quintet really thanks to her because it all started first. I don't remember which was the first version, whether it was the
Mm.
two pianos or the string quintet. I don't, but eventually it came. She is the one who suggested another instrumentation.
Yeah.
Um,
Can we go now to the gallery where?
oh,
Yes. Yeah. Please talk about your pictures.
this is my very first public playing, public in a great, beautiful hall, which now has become the radio center in Plovdiv. I played. That's where I played Schumann from his album for the Young, um, and Asen Diamandia from pieces of his children's album and also pieces of Parashka Kajeev, also for children. And the other flowers. Um,
You were one like 6 or 7?
actually five.
5.
Yes, I had started at three, and at five, well, we had this. This was the first. It was the full studio of my first teacher.
Mm.
And the next photo is well, this is my the Schumann competition after the award ceremony, the night of all the awards, everything is done, and I'm playing the Schumann concerto with the Zwickau Symphony Orchestra. This is after the award ceremony in Leeds with the president of the jury, Fanny Waterman.
And you are all the way to the right,
I'm
looking
all
down.
looking at my shoes or something. Um, that's the year when John Kimura Parker won the competition. And you know who gave the prizes was the late Duchess of Kent, who passed away a month ago on the 4th of September. And I felt deeply uh, that passing. Uh, uh, I don't know how long we were on stage. I don't remember how long, but it was a long time because we were six of us and there were speeches. Um, and she was with her sweet, radiant smile of this kind face. Uh, it's just unforgettable. And I was thinking about her while I was on stage. Oh my goodness. Does what about her facial muscles? Is she getting tired? She was so beautiful, such a unusual human being. She had in 1994, I understand she had asked to convert to Catholicism. And then 2 years later, or something of the sort, she also asks to be discharged from royal duties as part of the royal family and become music teacher because she was playing three instruments all her life. And I guess that's why she was given this task, she was always the one to give the prizes, but she herself went and became a teacher, music teacher. Um, so that was 1984, and I thought that this was going to be my final competition after 10 years of, doing competitions, but it was not. As the following year is the Van Cliburn. That was the year when the late Jose Figali won the competition. And as you can see, Philip Bianconi, Barry Douglas, who went to next following year to Moscow and won the Tchaikovsky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was on a jury for quite a number of years.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. I love this picture.
Yes. Um, that was the evening after the awards, and the awards were given by I forget the name of, I think it was Mary Abraham, my goodness, who played the role of Salieri in Amadeus.
I wouldn't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Mary Abraham. I'm so sorry that his face is right in front of my mind's
I
eye.
couldn't, you mean the actor? I don't.
Yes, the actor. Yes, they had invited him yes, he was the one who was giving us the prizes. And this was after between the award and the reception. And it was great because my cousins also came from different parts of the country and we had not seen each other in many, many, many years.
Yeah.
So it was I didn't know a word of English when I first came. And I remember the first uh, evening when he spoke in the opening of the competition. And here I said, I'm not going to talk about competitions now. I couldn't understand anything, but his voice, it was as though his voice said everything. His voice was so full of music and I don't know, some depth to it. And let's not forget above all, I mean, this is when he was 23 years old, he went and speaking of Orpheus, melting hearts with music, melting gates. He went to Moscow in the heights of the Cold War in 1958, and the entire Russian audience, including Khrushchev, were absolutely taken with the playing of this uh, highly gifted American boy.
Very
it was a
humble person. He
very
seemed like a very humble, down to earth,
down to
very,
earth
yeah. And again, like you
and
said,
gentle.
it's not about me, it's what I do that
Yes.
also kind of applies in my mind
Very,
to his persona.
very, very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Somewhat inward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Beautiful.
My first teacher, Penka Petkova of
Who did
Slovak.
so much for you, and I'm sure many others.
Many others.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, Milcha Livia, Rada Petkova, there were Dimo, there was, but everything was quality, serious, uh, non-compromising, never making things easy for her. She never took the easy road, never, even to
Great.
yes. The next is the duo Julia and Konstantin Ganev. Now, Julia,
I never knew she was Armenian. So,
yes, she was
tell a
Armenian,
little bit about that.
born in, I think it was Baku that she had told me she was born in Baku. And she had told me how she and her brother used to,
But this is her husband.
this is her husband,
Husband.
Konstantin
Yeah.
Ganev.
Mhm.
Her brother and she were little kids and were um, looking for roots because there was no food. And we're talking about during the World War. And they had been walking around very hungry, eating roots. Eventually, she goes to Moscow at 14, I think, and becomes a student of Henry Neuhaus, whom she called in the Russian way Negaus.
Yes.
Konstantin Ganev, Bulgarian, goes from Sofia to Moscow on what was called an aspirantura, postgraduate, with Henry Neuhaus, and they meet and they get married and come back to Bulgaria. And I met them when I first started working with them as a student in the conservatory.
Yeah.
Um,
I think most
very
Bulgarian
cool.
pianists studied with them.
Well, it came to be so.
Yeah.
It came to be so.
Yeah.
The very many great
Mhm.
success with them, and eventually they went to Tokyo to. They were invited to teach in Tokyo, and they taught there for 10 years in their late years. And a very something that had humbled me was what that was my second year here. Uh, Someone had come here um, to for postgraduate in a different city, but uh, had brought a message from them, a message request that so such and such we are going to teach in Tokyo, and we cannot think of anyone whom we can entrust our entire studio to, but you. Would you? And I just there was no way for me to go back to my own bio. I felt I had just started. I had my concerts from as part of the prize from the Van Cliburn. I had gone back to school. I was at the Juilliard at the time, and um, I had tours also in Europe. But most importantly, I had started something new here, and I felt the artist in me needed that broader development, that it was too soon for me to devote myself to teaching. And it would have been primarily that.
Teaching, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot to be developed.
Yeah.
But it was how to say, the high trust meant a lot.
Yeah.
Yvonne de Febure, when I was 9 years old, I um, wrote a little poem, a dream. It was a dream for me. Paris, to see Paris. Mhm. And when I was 20, I did get to see Paris for the first time because I was accepted in a summer seminar to work with Yvonne Levigour, and after that she invited me another 2 times. So I had been all in all 3 times with her, uh, 3 summers, that is. Such a What I remember from her is that she always said few words, and they were exactly what was needed. It was, a, and she always called everyone's, everyone's shoe. It's a sweet,
Yeah.
uh, very specific, incredible. And she always said, "Oh, you love this what you're playing," and then you said, "I love what I'm hearing." So it was really a beautiful um, rapport. And I learned something about Ravel with her, that he had been very, uh, um, he would expect the person who is playing his music to be uh, true to their any dot, any comma, anything. And that it stayed with me
Mhm.
in my work. And she was very, um, when I was, after the Van Cliburn, I received a letter somehow. It had found me eventually after a few months. Um, the bureau of the center of that seminar, and they had written a letter, how pleased they were and how proud they were of me, that you know um, I have had that prize from the Van Cliburn, and that meant a lot to me. Because she had wished me a very good luck with the career, and as you will see in the next photo, that those are her wishes.
Mm. Yeah, let's take a look. That's her letter.
Yes, this is her letter wishing me a brilliant career, and that's 1978 actually. And this is wonderful because it's on a page of writings by Alfred Cortot.
Beautiful. I love Alfred.
Oh,
Yes.
God, yes,
Oh my God.
yes.
Yeah. Fantastic.
With the old masters, and speaking of Alfred Cortot, I wanted to say that my first teacher, Penka Petkova's hero, was Edwin Fischer. And Schnabel, yes, but she would say Edwin Fischer, and it would be, yeah, she had gone to Wisconsin.
Yeah, let's talk about your friend.
But this is someone I had worked with back in the years when I did a Borden International Music Festival from 1988 through 2015.
Mm.
And she's saying that 15 years ago, she had, that means, I don't know, maybe 2009, 10? Yes, 2010. I had worked with her, and she reminded me what I've said to her, in our work. And that to this day she carries that, and that's very nice. It's nice when, again, I'm talking about the impact.
Yes.
It's there are people who have impact on my life, and then it's how it goes.
Yeah.
And this is from about 3 weeks ago.
Mhm.
I had just played a recital in which a piece by composer Ronnie Didier, um, two of his 24 grand piano etudes, and he was there, as was also Sebastian Currier, and it was so wonderful. We had two contemporary composers.
You can move to the next picture, which with Sebastian. Yeah.
And here's Sebastian Currier with the. I had just played Scarlatti cadences, which were written for me, and Brainstorm, which was written for Japanese pianist John Kamitsuka. This was a part of a a large project involving Scarlatti's music. And I have been playing since then a lot of, well, the dual Ghanaians have this tradition that every first year student of theirs was to play Scarlatti.
We are done with the gallery. Thank you. Yeah.
We all played Scarlatti the first year. Whatever else we played, but Scarlatti was always the first year.
It was not like that in Russia. It was back then. It was all Bach.
What Bach?
It was
we had
all
Bach.
It was all
okay.
Bach.
Was
Yeah.
always Scarlatti, no matter what else we were playing. That's it. No matter what else, Scarlatti.
Yeah.
As well. And yeah.
So Emma, we will continue.
We'll continue.
In December.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a great
It was
pleasure.
delightful. I will treasure this forever.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Again, those are things I have not thought of.
I know.
And it's such a journey somewhere, even though I don't think of time as in back or forth, but it's
Yeah.
something.
Wonderful having you. Thanks so much for coming. We wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. And thanks so much, everyone, for watching.
It's great to be here.
We really appreciate you tuning in. So long.